realized at 45, I was told he's gonna fucking know by now that people that have a fucking brain like me, because I have a fucking brain, are gonna know that we're gonna fact check his shit. Um, Coming out of Washington from the Associated Press, at 45's Klan rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, 45 bragged about a surge in auto industry that isn't surging, a Republican rescue for healthcare that has yet to take shape, and a total exoneration in the Russian investigation that he was not offered. Basically, he keeps insisting he's exonerated, but in Miller's report, it does not say that 45 is exonerated at all. He likes to think that he is, but he's not. Fucker. Sorry about that. Um, Basically, um, and as 45 routinely does, he took credit for Veterans Healthcare initiative that his predecessor achieved and ignored the reality when veterans seek treatment waiting times that still last for weeks. Here's a look at the rhetoric from 45's Klan rally on Thursday night, as well as his remarks leading up to it. 45 claims that he won 306 to 223. No, the truth is, no, he did not win 306 to 223. The final was 304 to 227. According to an Associated Press tally of the electoral votes in every state, he routinely misstates the result. 45 claims that he did really well with women during the Klan rally. The fact is, not that well at all. He actually lost a majority of the women's vote. About 55% voted for the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, according to exit polls, compared with 45's 41%. 45 claims the Republican Party will become the party of great healthcare, which they want. Republicans want you to have an affordable plan that's just right for you. At his Klan rally, if the Supreme Court rules that Obamacare is out, we have a plan that's far better than Obamacare, which was remarks remade at his Klan rally. The facts are the Republicans may aspire to great health care, but they don't have a comprehensive plan for it, and there's no indication that the White House executive branches, agencies like Health and Human Services, and Republicans in Congress are working on one. More than likely, they're not working on a health care plan. 45's recent budget plan called for repealing Obamacare and setting hard limits on federal spending for Medicaid, which covers low-income people. Some Republicans argue that would be better because the federal government would create a new program of health care grants to states. But when the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office analyzed similar proposals a couple of years ago, it estimated such changes would result in deep coverage losses, and not to mention weaker insurance protections for people with pre-existing conditions. 45's budget also called for hundreds of billions of dollars in Medicare cuts to hospitals and other service providers, a non-starter with lawmakers in Congress worried about re-election next year. The Supreme Court has upheld the health care law twice in previous challenges. The 5 justices who first upheld it in 2012 are still on the court. Congressional Republicans are generally trying to steer away from Obamacare spats. Some are trying to focus on areas where they might find common ground with Democrats and the squatters, such as reducing prescription drug costs. 45, we will always protect patients with pre-existing conditions, always. The fact is, it's not protecting health coverage for patients with pre-existing medical conditions. In fact, the 45 administration is pressing in court for full repeal of the Affordable Care Act, includes provisions that protect people with pre-existing conditions from health insurance discrimination. 45 and the other Republicans say they will have a plan to preserve those safeguards, but the White House has provided no details, and it's a stretch to think they could get the Republicans' only plan passed through Congress with the House under Democratic control. Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has unveiled her own plan to shore up and expand the Affordable Care Act, which would make many more middle-class people eligible to pay for their premiums and also make the subsidy amounts more generous. Former President Barack Obama's health care law requires insurers to take all applicants, regardless of medical history, and patients with health problems pay the standard premium as healthy ones. Bills supported in 2012 by Trump and by 45 and congressional Republicans to repeal the law could have pushed up costs for people with pre-existing conditions. 45 says we're bringing a lot of those car companies back. They're pouring back in at his Klan rally. We're opening up car plants in Michigan again for the first time in decades. They're coming in, really pouring in, and this has been happening pretty much since I started squatting in the White House. It's really amazing what's going on. We brought back so much industry, so many car companies to Michigan. We're very happy with Mark Swalt departing at his Klan rally. The fact is, there's very little truth in 45 statements here. The only automaker announcing plans to reopen a plant in Michigan is Fiat Chrysler, which has restarted an old engine plant to build three-row SUVs. It's been planning to do so since before 45 was elected. GM is even closing two Detroit area factories, one that builds cars and another that builds transmissions. Automakers have made announcements about new models being built in the state, but no other factories have been reopened. Ford stopped building the Focus compact car in the Detroit suburb of Wayne last year, but it's being replaced by the manufacture of a small pickup and a new SUV. That announcement was made in December 2016 before 45 took office. GM, meantime, is closing factories in Ohio and Maryland. 45 compulsively claimed that his policies have encouraged some activity in the domestic auto industry. Corporate tax cuts freed for more money for investment, and potential tariff increases on imported vehicles are an incentive to build in the U.S. Let's see, but automakers have been pouring in at all, have not been pouring in at all, as he persistently claims, and when expansion does happen, it's not because of him. Fiat Chrysler has been planning the SUVs for several years and has been looking at expansion in the Detroit area, where it has unused building space and an abundant trainable automotive labor force. Normally, it takes at least 3 years for an automaker to plan in a new vehicle, which is the case with the three-row Jeep Grand Cherokee and the larger Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer SUVs that will fill the restarting Detroit area plant, an existing one several years ago. Then CEO Sergio Marchionne said the Wagoneer would be built in the Detroit area. Detroit automakers usually build larger vehicles in the U.S. because the profit margins are high enough to cover the higher wages paid there, because Mexico or another lower cost country. On the Russia investigation, 45, after 3 years of lies and smears and slander, the Russian hoax is finally dead. This is what he claims. The collusion delusion is over. The special counsel completed its report and found no collusion, no obstruction, total exoneration, and complete vindication. Problem is, 45 thinks he's exonerated, but he's not. This is at his Klan rally. The facts: Mueller did not vindicate Trump did not vindicate 45 in total in the Russian probe. Mueller's exact words in the report, as quoted by Attorney General William Barr, say, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it does not exonerate him. The 4-page summary by Barr, released Sunday, notes Mueller did not draw a conclusion one way or the other as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction, but rather set out evidence for both sides, leaving the question unanswered of whether 45 obstructed justice. Barr wrote in the summary that ultimately he decided, an attorney general, that the evidence developed by Mueller was not sufficient to establish for the purposes of prosecution that 45 committed obstruction. Barr's summary also notes that Mueller did not find that 45's campaign conspired or coordinated with Russia to tip the 2016 election in 45's favor. To establish a crime, Mueller must generally meet a standard of proving an offense beyond a reasonable doubt. The summary did not clear the squatter of improper behavior regarding Russia, but did not establish that he was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian interference. Mueller said in the passage from the report quoted by Barr, the summary signed by Barr gave the bottom line only as he and his deputy saw it. Democrats are pushing for release of Mueller's full report, which is more than 300 pages. Barr is expected to release a public version of the document in the coming weeks. 45, speaking about allegations in a so-called dossier about contacts between Russia and the 45 campaign during the 2016 election. It came out after the election, and everybody had a big fat yawn. All of a sudden, I heard, were you involved with Russia? I said, Russia? What the hell does Russia have to do with my campaign at his Klan rally? There was actually plenty that had to do with Russia. There was plenty that Russia had to do with 45's campaign, according to U.S. intelligence agencies in a lengthy indictment brought by Mueller's team. Russian President Vladimir Putin, which is 45's boy toy, ordered a multi-part influence campaign aimed at hurting Democratic Hillary Clinton candidacy, undermining American democracy, and helping 45 get elected. That effort included the hacking of the Democratic National Committee, Clinton's campaign, and other Democratic groups. Russian and intelligence officers then coordinated the release of stolen emails and internal documents. There was also plenty of people around Trump 45 receptive to Russia's help, though Mueller's report ultimately did not find that those contacts amounted to a criminal conspiracy, according to Barr's summary. In the middle of the campaign, 45's son Jr. met at Trump Tower, at 45 Tower with a Russian lawyer, thinking he would be getting dirt on Clinton. Trump 45 Jr. agreed to the meeting, which included 45's son-in-law Jared Kushner and 45's campaign chairman Paul Manafort, despite it being described as part of a Russian government to help his father. 45 on the diversity visas, they're giving us their worst people, and the fact is that's not true at all. The diversity visa lottery program is run by the U.S. government, not foreign. Other countries do not get to sort through their populations looking for bad apples to put in for exports at the U.S. citizen. For the U.S. citizens of qualifying countries are the ones who decide to bid for visas under the program. 45 repeatedly blames foreign states. The program requires applicants to have completed a high school education or have at least 2 years of experience in the last 5 in a selection of certain fields. Out of that pool of people from certain countries who meet those conditions, the State Department randomly selects a much smaller pool of winners. Not all winners have visas ultimately approved because they still must compete for a smaller number of slots by getting their applicants in quickly. Those who are ultimately offered visas will need to get through background checks like other immigrants. The lottery is extended to citizens of most countries except about 20. The primary goal is to diversify the immigrant population by creating slots for underrepresented parts of the world. And that's about it. But I already knew that 45 was full of shit. And like I said, he's fucking got to know by now that people are going to be fact checking his shit whenever he lies about this stuff. But yep.